I'd like to particularly ask you as well, because it's related to the film industry, about that period in your career in Hollywood when you were to the forefront of the people who were...
For decades, a Newport Beach mansion held John Wayne's darkest secrets. His house was sealed off as soon as he passed away in 1979, and every photo, letter, and personal item was locked away for more than 30 years. They finally opened the doors in 2011, and everyone was shocked by what they found inside.
This is the story of what actually happened to the Duke's fortune, which includes everything from movie props that broke records to a shocking will that caused his family to fall apart. On May 26, 1907, John Wayne was born in Winterset, Iowa. His birth name was Marion Robert Morrison. The local newspaper reported on the fact that he weighed 13 pounds at birth, which was an unusual occurrence. From the very beginning, it appeared that he was meant to be a larger-than-life figure. He nearly died when he fell into a frozen creek at the age of 3. He was saved by a stranger who happened to be walking by, and that moment demonstrated the kind of resilience that he would carry with him for the rest of his life. His name was changed at the beginning. Marion's middle name was changed to Mitchell when his parents had another son and decided to name him Robert. Although this change may appear insignificant, it foreshadowed the larger changes that would occur in the future. His father's business went bankrupt in 1914, which is when the family relocated to Glendale, California. Marion was given the nickname Duke in Glendale because of his Airedale Terrier, which was also named Duke. The two were inseparable, and the firefighters in the area began referring to them as Big Duke and Little Duke. Marion liked it, and the nickname became permanent. Marion was a big fan of football when she was growing up. He received a football scholarship to the University of Southern California in 1925. He was a member of the Sigma Chi fraternity and studied pre-law, but his dreams of playing football came to an end when he hurt his shoulder while body surfing. It was heartbreaking to lose the scholarship. He believed that his plans had been destroyed, but this incident actually helped him to follow the path that would ultimately make him famous. Marion got a job at Fox Studios in 1927 after he finished his football career. He was a prop man and made $35 a week. It wasn't glamorous, but it opened the door for him. He made his first appearance on screen in the 1926 movie Brown of Harvard, where he played an uncredited football player rather than an actor. He became friends with director John Ford during this period. Ford recognized something in him and offered him advice, even going so far as to recommend that he change his name to something more powerful. They selected John Wayne after weighing a few alternatives, a name that would go on to become legendary. Wayne had a difficult time at the beginning of his acting career. He acted in more than 80 low-budget westerns between 1930 and 1939, and sometimes he was able to film an entire movie in just 2 days. He struggled to earn enough money to survive, and frequently only had one meal a day, which consisted of a can of beans heated on a hot plate. He was so disheartened by his success that he considered giving up acting altogether by the year 1938. Stagecoach, which was released in 1939, changed everything. Although the movie was a big deal, it was not easy to cast Wayne. John Ford was adamant about casting Wayne, even going so far as to threaten to leave the project if the studio did not agree with him. The studio, on the other hand, wanted to cast a well-known actor such as Gary Cooper. Wayne portrayed the Ringo Kid, a bandit with a strong sense of justice in the film. The camera zoomed in on his face while he held a rifle in his first scene, which became legendary. Wayne was so anxious that it took 27 attempts to get it right, even though it only lasted a few seconds. Stagecoach was a success, receiving 7 nominations for Academy Awards and winning 2 of them. Wayne became a star overnight because of his performance. He was paid only $3,700 for his role in the movie, which was a success. This is much less than what well-known actors make. Nevertheless, it had a significant impact on his life. Wayne was then regarded as the greatest hero of the West. He rejected offers to appear in films such as The Maltese Falcon and High Noon because he wanted to maintain his public persona. This choice allowed him to be seen as a representation of strength and manliness. For more than 50 years, John Wayne and John Ford collaborated to create 14 films that transformed the film industry in Hollywood. Ford and Wayne started working together in 1928, when Ford gave Wayne a small part as an extra in a film called Mother McCree. However, it was Stagecoach, released in 1939, that marked the beginning of their success. Wayne became a star because of this movie. The two of them had a difficult working relationship. Ford was hard on actors, and Wayne was often the one who suffered the most. In 1956, Ford made Wayne redo a simple scene on the set of The Searchers. All he had to do was pick up a gun, but he had to do it 17 times in front of everyone, which was embarrassing for him. Wayne, on the other hand, never voiced any complaints. He thought that Ford's strict approach was beneficial in helping him to perform at his best. When The Searchers was first released, it was not even acknowledged by the Academy Awards. However, it is now regarded as one of the best films of all time. Donovan's Reef, which was released in 1963, was the last movie they made together, and it almost didn't get made. Wayne was uncertain about whether or not he should accept the position because he thought he was too old for it. Wayne persuaded Ford to take on the role of director, even though Ford was struggling with alcoholism and was not in good health. The movie was filmed in Hawaii, where the temperature was sometimes as high as 100 degrees Fahrenheit, making it difficult to bear. Ford became so ill with shingles while filming that he had to direct some scenes while lying on a stretcher. The film was completed and performed reasonably well, even though it faced these challenges. This movie was more of a comedy than their serious westerns, demonstrating that they were able to work in different styles even at the end of their careers. Wayne received his first Oscar nomination for Sands of Iwo Jima in 1949. He played the role of Sergeant John Stryker, a Marine who is tough. Wayne was initially reluctant to take on the role because he felt that it was too similar to other characters he had already portrayed. Herbert Yates, the president of Republic Pictures, had to persuade Wayne himself, offering him a whopping $250,000 and a share of the profits, which was a lot of money back then. Making the movie was a challenge. To make the battle scenes feel more realistic, director Alan Duane decided to use real flamethrowers and explosives. This resulted in injuries on set, including one explosion that rendered Wayne unconscious for 30 minutes. For 2 days, filming was put on hold. The United States provided real footage from the Battle of Iwo Jima, which was also included in the movie. Marine Corps, they allowed the filmmakers to use rare combat footage, which was so seamlessly integrated with the staged scenes that many people believed the entire film was real. One memorable scene depicted the raising of the flag on Mount Suribachi, using the original flag from the battle. 3 of the Marines who survived and raised that flag even made an appearance in the film. Wayne's performance in All the King's Men was strong, and the film was successful, but he still lost the Oscar to Broderick Crawford. Wayne had actually rejected the lead role in that movie because he believed it was un-American, which is ironic. He was very disappointed by the loss, and it would be another 11 years before he was nominated again. The Alamo in 1960, which was Wayne's dream project, was one of the most dangerous films he ever produced. He had been wanting to make the film for more than 15 years, and he eventually ended up mortgaging his house, cars, and even his boat in order to pay for it. The production cost $12 million, which was a huge amount of money at the time. Wayne was adamant about constructing a full-scale replica of the Alamo in Texas. It took 2 years to finish, and required more than 1.5 million adobe bricks. Every detail, even the smallest ones like nails from the 1830s, was historically accurate. The set became a tourist attraction and remained open until 2009. A lot of work went into filming the Alamo. They filmed for 79 days in extremely hot weather, which sometimes reached 110 degrees Fahrenheit. They also used over 7,000 extras and 1,500 horses. There were also accidents. In one scene, an extra was injured with a bayonet and required 26 stitches. Wayne would not take shortcuts, even though he was facing difficulties. The premiere of the movie was a big event, complete with a parade and fireworks. Although it received 7 Oscar nominations, including Best Picture, critics had mixed opinions about it, and it did not make enough money to cover its enormous expenses. Wayne was extremely disappointed that he was not nominated for Best Director. Nevertheless, the film has had a long-lasting effect on the way people remember the story of the Alamo. In 1970, Wayne finally won an Oscar for True Grit. He played the role of Rooster Cogburn, a U.S. Marshal who has only one eye. Wayne was still recovering from lung cancer surgery and thought he was too old, so he almost didn't accept the role. However, after he finished reading the book, he came to the conclusion that it could be the opportunity of a lifetime. Filming was a challenge. It happened in Colorado, where Wayne's health was negatively affected by the cold weather and high altitude. He needed to use an oxygen tank in between scenes. At one point, his horse nearly threw him off when it stumbled on a steep hill, which was a very dangerous situation. Wayne continued on even after he tore a muscle in his shoulder. Wayne gained weight and wore an eye patch that made it difficult for him to see in order to play the role of Rooster Cogburn. He needed to memorize the sets in order to avoid running into things. The audience loved his performance, which was unlike anything he had done in the past. The film earned more than $31 million and became one of the biggest successes of his career. Wayne accepted his award at the Oscars with a well-known quote, "If I'd known this, I'd have put that patch on 35 years earlier." That night, he had the flu, but he would not miss the ceremony. Wayne's Oscar was given to him for his long career rather than for the role he played, according to some people. Wayne later acknowledged that it felt like a career award. However, Rooster Cogburn became one of his most well-known characters, and the success of the film solidified his status as one of Hollywood's biggest stars. John Wayne's romantic life was characterized by a lot of highs and lows, including 3 marriages that took place over the course of nearly 50 years. In 1933, Josephine Sayens became his first wife. Wayne's career was just beginning to take off at that time. Wayne's increasing fame meant that he was often away from home, even though they had 4 children together. Things took a turn for the worse in 1938 when he began a secret affair with actress Marlene Dietrich. Wayne attempted to repair his marriage by taking Josephine to Mexico in 1943 so that they could spend time together, but his efforts were unsuccessful. In 1945, they got a divorce. His second marriage, which was to Esperanza Bauer in 1946, was tumultuous and fraught with difficulties. Esperanza, who used to be an actress in Mexico, was extremely envious. While filming Angel and the Bad Man in 1947, she suspected that Wayne was cheating on her with his co-star, Gail Russell. One night, Wayne came home late after a party, and that was when her jealousy reached its peak. Esperanza was so furious and intoxicated that she picked up a gun and attempted to shoot him as he entered the room. Fortunately, no one was injured, but their marriage did not last long after that. In 1954, they got a divorce. In 1954, Wayne married Pilar Palete for the 3rd time. They remained married until he passed away in 1979. Wayne and Pilar had 3 children together, and for a time, things seemed to be more stable. However, by 1973, they had separated. Wayne then moved in with his secretary, Pat Stacy, after that. Wayne and Pilar never went through the legal process of divorce, even though they lived separately. Wayne's affair with Marlene Dietrich was common knowledge in Hollywood. It began in 1938 during the filming of 7 Sinners and continued for nearly a decade. At that time, Wayne was still married to Josephine, but that didn't prevent him from spending the night at Dietrich's house. The 2 of them had a lot of passion for one another. They exchanged letters in which they expressed their feelings to each other without holding back. Dietrich even used her influence to help Wayne with his career. She ensured that he was cast in leading roles in films such as The Spoilers and Pittsburgh in 1942. They remained close friends for the rest of their lives, even though their affair ended in 1947. Wayne was often referred to as the love of Dietrich's life. Maureen O'Hara was one of Wayne's most well-known friends. They appeared together in 5 films, the first of which was Rio Grande, released in 1950. The Quiet Man, released in 1952, was their most well-known movie. Many fans believed that they were a couple in real life because they had such great chemistry. O'Hara even made a joke about an elderly woman on the street who believed that she was Wayne's wife. Wayne's children referred to her as Auntie Maureen, which demonstrated how close she was to the family. O'Hara's grandson confessed years later that Wayne and O'Hara had a short-lived romance, but he claimed that it would not have been successful because they were both too strong-willed. Nevertheless, O'Hara remained loyal to Wayne until the very end. She assisted him in obtaining a congressional medal to commemorate his legacy while he was dying of cancer. Wayne found comfort in his secretary, Pat Stacy, during his last years. Pat became his partner and carer after he and Pilar broke up. Wayne was 34 years older than she was, but they had a strong bond. Pat was there for him throughout his cancer treatments, helping him manage his life and ensuring that he had support. From 1973 until Wayne's death in 1979, they lived together. Pat wrote a book called Duke, A Love Story in 1983 after he had died. The book revealed information about their time together and presented a side of Wayne that fans did not often see, one that was more gentle and open. Pat never got married and dedicated her life to keeping Wayne's memory alive. In 1995, she died. Doctors informed John Wayne that he had lung cancer in 1964, when he was 57 years old. This was surprising, but not unexpected. For years, Wayne smoked a lot, up to 6 packs of cigarettes every day. In order to save his life, the doctors made the decision to take out his left lung and 2 of his ribs. Wayne survived the risky surgery, which had only a 50% chance of success, and lived without cancer for 5 years. Wayne is not like most people who would have kept their illness to themselves. He made the decision to inform the world. Wayne did not care that his advisors warned him that this could be detrimental to his career. He wanted to assist others by motivating them to get screened for cancer. To make cancer seem less frightening, he even created a nickname for it, the Big C. He appeared in a television advertisement for the American Cancer Society in 1965, which was 1 year after his surgery. He requested that people take cancer seriously and support research into the disease. However, cancer was not finished with him. Wayne discovered that he had stomach cancer in 1979. He attempted to use an experimental vaccine, but it was insufficient. Wayne continued to speak out, even when his health was declining. While he was in the hospital, he recorded messages asking for additional funding for cancer research. He told people that they might discover a cure for cancer without your help, but he wouldn't put his life on the line for it. He said this just weeks before he died. The last movie Wayne made was The Shootist, which came out in 1976. It was about an aging gunfighter who died of cancer, and it felt very similar to Wayne's real life. When he filmed it, he was 68 years old and in bad health. He was determined to perform his own stunts, even though he frequently required oxygen between scenes. He had to fall onto a hard floor several times in one scene. He never expressed dissatisfaction. The film was a hit, and people viewed it as Wayne's farewell. He even altered the ending to make it more in line with his powerful image. In the original story, his character was shot in the back. "I've never shot a man in the back in any movie," Wayne said, refusing to do it. Make a change to it. The film earned $13.4 million and provided Wayne with an opportunity to say goodbye in a role that reflected his own bravery. On June 11, 1979, Wayne passed away at the age of 72. After battling stomach cancer for several months, he died at UCLA Medical Center. His death was a significant event for both Hollywood and his fans. President Jimmy Carter described him as larger than life and a genuine American hero. Thousands of fans came together outside the hospital and his house to leave flowers, notes, and even cowboy hats. His star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame became a place where people could light candles and remember him. Wayne's funeral was private, but a public memorial was held later so fans could say goodbye. It was shown on television and millions of people tuned in to watch it. He was made an honorary member of the class of 1979 at the U.S. Naval Academy, even though he never served in the military. Following his passing, Orange County Airport was renamed John Wayne Airport, which demonstrates the significance he held for the community. Wayne's family established the John Wayne Cancer Foundation in 1985 in order to keep his memory alive and to continue his battle against cancer. They wanted to ensure that his name would always be associated with bravery and strength. The John Wayne Cancer Institute, which became a leader in cancer research, was founded with the help of the foundation. It developed new treatments, such as a method for early cancer detection, which has saved many lives. When John Wayne died, his estate was worth $6.85 million in 1979. That amount would be equivalent to about $25 million today. This seemed insignificant for someone who is as well known and accomplished as he is. Because he was one of the highest paid actors of his time, people thought that his fortune would be much larger. This could indicate that Wayne spent a lot of money throughout his life or that he was very generous with his finances. The estate did not include all of his assets. For instance, he sold his cherished yacht, Wild Goose, for $750,000 just before he passed away. He had a strong connection to this yacht, which was a minesweeper during World War II. Now that it has been sold, it adds an element of uncertainty to the extent of what he actually left behind. Wayne was a big fan of real estate, and his house in Newport Beach was one of his most well-known properties. He purchased it in 1965 and resided there until he passed away in 1979. The house was located on the water facing Balboa Island. It appeared to be plain from the outside, but it was opulent and extravagant on the inside, just like Wayne's character. The house was sold for $5.5 million in 1980, which was a very high price at that time. This sale took place after his death. Wayne owned a 5-acre ranch in Encino prior to relocating to Newport Beach. He departed from the ranch at the age of 58 in order to live a more peaceful life by the water. He also owned properties in Arizona and Washington, which demonstrates his appreciation for different landscapes and his good judgment when it comes to real estate. Wayne once made a joke about how moving to Newport Beach years before had been a good decision, because by that time, I definitely wouldn't have been able to afford it. Wayne's will was made public after he passed away in 1979, and it created a lot of controversy. The most surprising thing was that he did not leave anything to his third wife, Pilar Paletti. They had been married for more than 20 years, but they separated in 1973, 6 years before he died. Wayne left the majority of his estate to his 7 children from his first 2 marriages, despite the fact that he and his wife did not get divorced. This decision caused people to wonder about their relationship and why Paletti was not included. The drama continued for years after that. Isa, Wayne's daughter, filed a lawsuit against her brother Ethan and John Wayne Enterprises in 2010. She claimed that she was entitled to a larger portion of the company. Wayne's children were also given personal items and memorabilia in the will, but these items also became sources of conflict. The family arguments became even more intense due to disagreements over these keepsakes, demonstrating how dividing his assets led to long-term issues. In 2011, John Wayne fans experienced something incredible. More than 700 items from his life and career were made available for auction. On October 6th and 7th, a major event took place at the Hyatt Century Plaza in Los Angeles. Fans and collectors had the opportunity to acquire items from his personal life and film career. Since Wayne passed away in 1979, many of these items had been kept under lock and key. That day, his house was sealed, and all of his possessions were put into storage. It felt like opening a time capsule after more than 30 years. The auction featured a wide variety of items. There were costumes, props, awards, and even furniture from his house. A few of the items were particularly one of a kind. For instance, his scripts demonstrated how he went about making his films. The script for The Horse Soldiers had pages that were folded to indicate which scenes had been completed. Other scripts, such as Wednesday Morning, were kept tidy and flawless, demonstrating how organized he was. After that, there were personal items such as clothing, books, and his most recent driver's license. He had a collection of colorful neckerchiefs that he loved to wear, and even that collection sold for $10,755. Some items broke records. A record was set for the highest price paid for a costume hat when his Green Beret from the Green Berets 1968 sold for $179,250. It was popular with people because it represented one of his most well-known films. His cowboy hat, which was worn in films such as Big Jake and the Cowboys, was another one of his best-selling items. It was sold for $119,500. Wayne's Golden Globe for his performance in True Grit also attracted a lot of attention and was sold for $143,400. This award was significant because it was associated with the only role in which he won an Oscar. Even small, everyday items were sold for a lot of money. His most recent driver's license, which is a completely normal item, was sold for $89,625. That set a record for a driver's license. The eye patch he wore in True Grit was also sold for $47,800. Thousands of dollars were paid for items of clothing, including trousers from the Alamo and a shirt that was worn in a number of films. These items allow fans to feel a genuine connection to him. The auction not only showcased his career in film, but it also provided insight into his character. A gold-plated Winchester rifle that he gave to his friend Bob Shelton was one of the unique items. Wayne's generous side was on display when it sold for $13,315. His books provided a glimpse into his reading preferences, which included subjects such as military strategy and history. His collection of seashells was one surprising thing about him, and it revealed a gentler side of him that people did not often get to see. A portrait of Wayne by John Decker was one of the most valuable pieces. It was sold for $71,700. Wayne had kept this painting in his home, which demonstrated how much he valued it. The auction also featured family photos, letters, and even furniture from his home. These things provided fans with a more intimate view of his personal life. They demonstrated that John Wayne was more than just a Hollywood star. He was also a father, a friend, and a person who had strong ties to his family and the people he cared about. John Wayne gave an interview to Playboy magazine in 1971 that caused a lot of anger, and people are still talking about it today. He made some surprising comments that revealed his controversial opinions. The comment that received the most attention was when he stated, "I believe in white supremacy until the blacks are educated to a point of responsibility." At that time, he was 63 years old and extremely well known. However, this was not a one-time occurrence. He had made similar statements in the past. During the same interview, he also discussed Native Americans, saying that he did not believe it was wrong to take their land and that it was a matter of survival. He went so far as to call the movie Midnight Cowboy perverted and to use a homophobic slur when he criticized it. This interview came back into the spotlight years later, in February 2019, when someone posted portions of it on Twitter. Wayne was called a terrible person by a screenwriter, and the tweet became very popular. People were once again arguing about his legacy out of the blue. Some people wanted him to be canceled, while others debated whether his words should determine how we remember him. Even after so many years, his comments have sparked important discussions about the responsibility of celebrities and how their words can cause harm. This controversy was not limited to social media. It also drew attention to places named after him, such as the John Wayne Airport in Orange County, California. Wayne died in 1979, and the airport was named after him that same year. However, by 2020, people were demanding that it be given a new name. This occurred during the protests that took place across the country following George Floyd's murder. The local Democratic Party formally requested a change to the airport's name on June 26, 2020. They stated that Wayne's statements did not align with Orange County's values of diversity and inclusion. Orange County was once a very conservative place, but it has changed significantly. It has become more diverse and politically competitive, with Democrats winning every congressional seat in 2018. There were some people who believed that keeping Wayne's name on the airport would send a negative message to minority communities. Wayne's son, Ethan, and a few others came to his defense. Ethan claimed that his father was not a racist and that people were unjustly attacking his father's legacy. Wayne's is still at the airport in 2025, but the discussion is ongoing, demonstrating how difficult it is to manage the legacies of people who are controversial. The University of Southern California, USC, where Wayne had previously studied, was also impacted by the controversy. In July 2020, the university made the decision to take down an exhibit about him from its School of Cinematic Arts. This exhibit, which has been there since 2012, displays movie posters and personal items in order to pay tribute to him as one of their most well-known alumni. However, in late 2019, students and alumni began protesting, claiming that Wayne's racist comments made the exhibit unwelcoming, particularly for students of color. The university stated that they wanted to promote anti-racism and make the school more inclusive, and after months of discussions, they decided to take it down. While some people were in favor of the decision, others believed that it was incorrect to erase history. All of this has raised a more significant question. Is it possible to separate someone's art from their personal beliefs? A lot of fans believe that Wayne's films, such as The Searchers and Rio Bravo, are too significant to overlook. They believe that you can still appreciate his work even if you disagree with his opinions. However, critics argue that his racist remarks and the stereotypes present in his films make it impossible to distinguish between the two. They also mention that his films frequently celebrated a version of American history that overlooked the violence that Native Americans experienced.